Hi, my name is Doug Thompson from the Rotary Club of Stratford, Ontario, Canada.
My name is David Operative from the London Hyde Park Rotary Club from London, Canada.
And we have a really exciting project to talk to you about today that has ramifications for a number of concerns that Rotary faces in their work each day, and also ramifications for $2.4 trillion in effect on the world economy. This is a good news and a bad news story. The good news is we have solutions. The bad news is that we have to be able to implement them in this day and age. It's also probably one of the best kept secrets, unfortunately, which we need to talk to you about today. And we call our project an electric car for $300. That has significance in a number of ways, which hopefully will reveal themselves as we go on. So I think we're all aware that there are three major problems in our time in facing Rotary, both problems and challenges. Those problems are COVID, which is in our face, and we spent trillions of dollars, or billions of dollars rather, on this problem. And you know, we're getting close to getting it under control, but it's certainly taken our focus both in Rotary and in the world. The second problem is a problem that's probably much more serious. It's rotting our bodies, and it's of course climate change. And unfortunately, it's been put on the back burner because of COVID. But you know, the ramifications of this, not only long term, but you know, more short term, are going to be devastating to our population and to the world. And the third problem, of course, is peace and conflict in our time. And you know, although this is ongoing, it seems to be getting worse in certain areas. And I think the three are interrelated because as climate change becomes more serious, you know, and people become displaced, for example, from flooding, you're going to see mass migrations, which we aren't prepared for, and which are going to cause more suffering and conflict in our time, for sure. So why is Rotary facing this challenge, but also why is this Rotary's time in the sun? It is because we are an international organization, not a national organization. We have 1.2 million people all over the world and 32,000 clubs. Although nationalism is a part of our identity as a country, it's become very negative in its vaccine nationalism and me first scenario. And that's not what Rotary is all about. And I think we struggle as to how to be more impactful. It's beyond the time of planting a tree or giving up meat for a day. We have to, as a club and as an organization, take this seriously and explore all the areas where we can help. I think morally we're obliged to respond to this crisis as well because of our four-way test. In particular, is it fair? Is it the truth? And, you know, we also know that working together collaboratively, we can do a lot. And just take the example of Polio Plus, for example. No other organization or country in the world could do this, but Rotary is able to pull it together and has almost eradicated polio in our world. A really big challenge considering the times and the political situations. I think we're in a lull at the moment, maybe a bit of a COVID coma. And, you know, we've had trouble both informing and engaging our clubs in climate change. And this is so important to do that. And I think we, as a developed nation, we have to realize that the problems in developing nations are serious. And poverty, social injustice, and inequality need to be solved if we're going to ever defeat COVID at a time or build peace or deal with global warming. And, you know, the tipping point is arbitrary at this point. You know, is it within the next decade? Is it within the next half century? We're already in a salvage situation. It's going to be a very different world we face in the future. So the tipping point is really now, and the time to act is now, and act impactfully. And I think Rotary realizes that and have increasingly in the past few years, and they now adopted a 7 area of focus called the environment. And their model through the new area of focus number 7, Rotarians as people of action are given the power to protect and support all life on this, our one planet. They formed an international committee, and they're looking at various solutions. They have members on this committee from all over the world, including experts, and they're becoming very impactful in finding solutions and promoting this area to the world. I would encourage you to join this organization if you have not already, or at least visit their website, and maybe even be part of committees that are part of solutions and collaborations and education. So important at this time. I'm part of a group called Commit. It's a mission group that works in Nicaragua. We formed it about 9 years ago to have a model that would work in a developing country. We were taken under the umbrella of the Rotary Club of Stratford about 3 years ago, and their charitable foundation for tax purposes. And they've been very supportive of our cause, as have many Rotary clubs around the world, and in Canada, certainly. Our mission statement: compassionate commitment to bettering the lives of people in less advantaged countries through effective and collaborative use of medical, social, and educational programs. We work in Nicaragua, one of the more difficult countries in the world to work in. We've had a lot of support from local and governments in the area we work. We work south of Managua, in one of the poorest areas in the country. And Nicaragua is one of the poorest areas in Central America. The 3 countries north of Nicaragua are called the Northern Triangle, and these are the people that are migrating up into the United States because of the very problems that we talked about: poverty, social injustice, and inequality. They're not there to have a handout or jump the queue. They're there because they've lost hope in their own country. The last thing they want to do is move, but they feel they have no option. These are some of the projects that we do in Nicaragua. This is one of our medical clinics we run. We run teams down once or twice a year, spend 2 weeks, and visit the villages in the area that we serve. These are very rural villages and very poor, and lack many of the services that we can provide. We've recently got a global grant to drill wells in the area, and we are in the process of drilling 4 wells and upgrading 2 more with distribution systems. This is a typical village that we visit. This was before the wells were drilled. The tanker truck on the right is delivering water into pails that the villagers will use for the next week as their water source until the next tanker truck arrives. Any wells that are in the area are shallow, they're contaminated, and they dry up in the dry season, so they're not of much use. This is one of the villages where we are drilling a well at the moment. Imagine how inhibited you are from moving forward by just simply the rationing of the water that has to take place in these villages. Incredible. This is our school program. This is our garden project. This is very relevant to what we're talking about today, because about 4 years ago, we looked at the situation in our area with crops and farming. And they were doing basically subsistence type farming with growing beans and corn, and as the main crop. The soil was pretty well devastated from years of farming, and capable of very little else. We were able to talk the farmers into trying some new regenerative farming techniques, and primarily composting in various forms. This is a form of composting called vermiculture, where they use worms and cow dung and a couple other ingredients, and they're able to produce a very rich compost, which they can add to their soil and their crops. And basically, in the space of 2 or 3 years, we've turned the situation totally around in our area. And this is what they're growing now, all varieties of fruits and vegetables. And, you know, it's contributed to the microeconomy in the area. And these farmers have expressed to us that we have given them hope. And that's the one thing that that has encouraged them to move forward. We send containers down with medical equipment. This is one of the hospitals we supply, and this is a new obstetrical bed, which we've given them. That's my co-founder of Commit, Janice, there on the left, and the medical director on the right. We've been able to contract services out to a couple people on the ground in our area that we've worked with for years, and we've been able to mount a COVID response in Nicaragua. These kids are lining up for a hand washing demonstration. We provided the buckets and soap and the masks through our sewing program, and medically we bought masks for the hospital and a local medical establishment in our endeavor to help the COVID situation in Nicaragua. We've also provided disaster relief. As you know, equatorial countries, developing countries are often affected more by climate change, and there were 2 hurricanes through Nicaragua last year with extensive flooding, and people in our area lost most of their possessions. Here we're able to provide rice and beans and oil and toiletries to help them regain their footing, as well as building materials. So, you know, we're traveling across Canada, as David will talk about in a minute, and we're trying to encourage clubs to refocus on the environment and having a robust local and international environmental program. And part of that involves informing and engaging your club on environmental problems and solutions. And you can do this by joining and participating in SRAG, and there's all sorts of educational material there and ways you can help the environment. And having an environmental focus on all the projects and making them impactful in your club. Being a messenger and advocate for environmental awareness and solutions, not just within your club, but outside as well. And collaborating both inside and outside of Rotary to get this job done, especially with our youth, but you know, as well with other local environmental groups that are working in communities, with your community governments, with your provincial governments, with your or state governments, with your national governors or governance, to get the message out and to advocate for global change on a serious and impactful basis. You know, there's so many contributing factors to why we're not going ahead on this, political and economic, including big business. So we have to be advocates for this cause in a very impactful way. Thank you very much. And I'll turn it over to David now for his part of the presentation.
Thanks, Doug. And I'm going to show you a short video. I need to share the screen, Doug.
They make this world black. My hands were like grease. You couldn't wash it away. The pots were black. The air was black. It was impossible for breathing. We have seen forest reserves in 3 years completely gone, not a single tree standing there.
Three billion people use biomass, so wood, dung, charcoal, agricultural waste, and they cook those on very rudimentary open fires. That smoke kills roughly 2 million people each year, mostly women and children. So that's double the number of people that die from malaria each year.
The most dangerous activity a woman in the developing world can undertake is cooking for her family. And most of them have a baby on the front or a baby on the back. So that baby is inhaling so much smoke, it's equivalent to 3 packs of cigarettes a day.
Cooking on an open fire contributes more black carbon to the atmosphere than all of the cars and the trucks in the world combined.
To make a ton of charcoal, it takes about 10 tons of trees. The forests are just vanishing.
The production and distribution of ultra-clean cook stoves that nearly completely eliminate smoke and reduce fuel consumption.
So this is a picture of a typical home in Nicaragua. And you can see here the effects of the smoke from this open fire stove. In the background, the metal is turned black from the carbon particles over the years. And you can see all the ash, the unsafe environment there with the sticks and the wood around there and the cans. And of course, a mother with her young children. So they are very susceptible to the effects of the smoke, which does cause mortality and morbidity, especially on the respiratory system and on the eyes. What we propose to do is install stoves based on the Hyde design. And this schematic is shown in the left-hand side where the rocket elbow design of this Hyde stove is illustrated. And the key thing here is that the airflow is able to go underneath the fuel and produce a very efficient burning process. On the right-hand side is a schematic of the finished product, and you can see on the bottom left where that fuel is inserted into the stove, and then the orange part at the top is the well-insulated heating box, which makes everything very efficient. This is what the stove would look like in a typical home, and the part with the brick at the front is actually cool to the touch, is well insulated. There's a very good heating surface, and very important for the individuals in the home is the fact that there's a vent and that the smoke is vented to the outside. So these stoves are very beneficial to the women who are cooking. Again, as I said, it decreases morbidity and mortality to the individuals, both the mother and their children. And it's much more efficient, up to 50% more efficient. So less wood is being used, less expensive for the family. The open fire stoves produce pollution more than all of the world's cars and trucks combined. The greenhouse gases that are produced by one open fire stove, the old type of stove, they are essentially equivalent to what we produce in one of our gas cars. The new Hyde stove is very efficient, up to 50% more efficient, less wood being used, so it decreases the greenhouse gases by 50% or more. So to create a negative effect on our carbon imprint in terms of what we produce with our automobiles, we can purchase a new electric car for up to $70,000 Canadian, or we can purchase 2 stoves, which basically would have the same effect on the environment. So what can you do? You can sponsor a stove for $150 or 2 stoves for $300. And by doing that would eliminate the greenhouse gases produced by one automobile. Another part of our project is reforestation, because the trees are being cut down. And on the other hand, the trees suck up the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So they're very important. And in a nursery that Doug already talked about, we are growing saplings, and that nursery is being expanded. And those saplings are ready. They will be taken by the villagers who get the stoves, and they will plant and care for those saplings so that they grow into full-grown trees. We're going to be partnering with an organization called the Stove Team International. They're out of Portland, Oregon. They have expertise in training people to build these stoves. So we will be sending a small group to Guatemala to learn and become experts on building these stoves and the rocket elbow design. And they will come back and they will teach the local people how to build a stove. So the labor will be local and the materials will be local. The other team, the other important thing about Stove Team International is their work on establishing carbon credits. And that's what we hope to be able to do with these stoves in the future so that it may become self-sustaining and also lead to a microeconomy. So to get the idea of these stoves across our country, across Canada, I started a Canada-wide bike ride in October of 2020, and in April, I finished that ride. And so this was able to allow us to go and speak to Rotary clubs across the country as I rode across, and we've spoken to over 50 clubs in Canada and have taken a message about the environment and about these stoves. So our goal is to have 250 stoves and 3,000 trees and raise $50,000 Canadian. And at this point in time, we're pretty close to that. However, we would like to triple that and increase it to 750 stoves and 9,000 trees. And come July 1st, we will be applying for a global grant. So hopefully this will be successful and let us increase the number of stoves and trees that we're able to establish. Time Magazine has determined and said that the next decade that we're in right now, from now to 2030, is really a tipping point, and what the decisions and things we do now will really be important going forward. And they have said that climate is everything, and it really is. I mean, this has been recognized by Rotary. As Doug said, it's now the 7th area of focus for Rotary, and this environmental sustainability Rotary Action Group is a large part of this. There's more to this project than just the environment. There's social justice issues, providing the safety for the women and children, and also the contribution to the microeconomy from the stoves and from the nursery. It's all about the future, and this is bigger than just 750 stoves in Nicaragua. We plan to become involved with the WHO Global Alliance for Clean Cooking Stoves and the United Nations Clean Cooking Stove Alliance to take this message and work with others around the world, which is so critical if we really want to make a big difference. With that, I'll thank you very much. Okay, there we go, then. You're on mute, Doug.
Thanks, David. Both David and I belong to SREG and on the Solutions Committee. We're hoping to have a booth at the RICON meeting coming up on June the 12th and try and roll this out internationally. We realize that, there's not one solution that fits all. Different countries have different needs and different cultural aspects to deal with. And we are trying to display different models in different countries to advance the cause as well. So please join with us in spreading the message and trying to help get this across internationally. This can be so impactful to our environment. So with that, David and I will look forward to the future. Thanks, David, for your participation.
Thank you, Doug.